Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
President Bongbong Marcos has directed Congress to expedite action on 4 key reform bills aimed at improving governance and accountability.
Contractor Sara Diskaya has surrendered to the National Bureau of Investigation, according to his spokesperson.
The police say they have no information on the whereabouts of Senator Bato de la Rosa amid the reported arrest warrant from the ICC.
The Justice Department has indicted businessman Atong Ang and 21 others over the disappearance of several Sabongeros.
Lawmakers are reacting to President Bongbong Marcos' call to fast-track 4 reform bills. Some welcoming the move, others insisting it falls short and urging the president to certify the measures as urgent. Here is our report.
Transparency and accountability. That's what the public is demanding amid the ongoing flood control scandal. And in response, President Bongbong Marcos is urging both the House and the Senate to fast-track 4 key reform bills. These include the Anti-Dynasty Bill, the Independent People's Commission Bill, the Partyless System Reform Bill, and the Citizens' Access and Disclosure of Expenditures for Accountability, also known as the Cadena Bill. In the Constitution, political dynasties are prohibited, but Congress still needs to pass a law to enforce it.
Ang importante kasi kanina sabi ng Presidente that we agreed was define muna natin ano ang political dynasty. Yung na-define natin yun, madali na yung batas.
Over in the Senate, lawmakers are tackling the creation of an Independent People's Commission. The House version proposes an independent commission against infrastructure corruption. Under these measures, the IPC would have the power to issue subpoenas, freeze assets, cite individuals for contempt, and release lookout orders. For months, Congress has been pressed to expand the authority of the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, or ICI. Representative Leila de Lima of the ML Party List says the public wants these bills, particularly the IPC and the Anti-Dynasty Bill, certified as urgent, not just listed as priorities. She adds, if we're really prioritizing them, why not go all the way? Other lawmakers share the same sentiment.
They should have done that a long time ago. Sabi nga natin, yung politikong gipit sa pangakong reforma kumakapit. So, nakita naman natin kung paano tayo nag-pushback doon sa pronouncement ng Palasyo na hindi sila keen in certifying as urgent yung ating ICAIC. Pero sa dulo, itong pangako na ito, pangako lamang, kailangan natin for him to do drastic action. I-certify niya as urgent itong mga bills.
Still, some congressmen warn that passing the bill this year may no longer be feasible.
Kasi naman, nasa kalagitnaan tayo ng national appropriations considerations. Next year mo na pag-usapan yan. Kung ihahabol mo sa ngayon yan, wala na sa House yan.
The Senate, however, says it will try to pass the IPC bill before its Christmas break. Meanwhile, Executive Secretary Ralph Recto says all 4 measures will undergo further consultation with various sectors. For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
The Senate has approved the proposed 6.793 trillion peso national budget for 2026 on third and final reading. All 17 senators present voted in favor with no opposition or abstentions. The 2026 General Appropriations Bill will now move to the Bicameral Conference Committee. Sessions will be held at the Centro de Turismo in Intramuros, Manila, starting December 11 and expected to finish by December 13. The bicameral meetings are expected to be live-streamed for public access. However, Senators Erwin Tulfo and Ping Lacson noted that some House lawmakers are reportedly opposed to public sessions.
Hindi dito sa amin.
Sa House, sir?
Sa House, ayaw nila. Sabi nga ng Senator Soto, mukhang nagkaroon sila ng diskusyon. Kasi sabi, ba't pinakailaman? Parang gano'n. Bakit biglang slash.
We were told na medyo may resistance. Kasi di ba nagpasa kami ng concurrent resolution, walang counterpart eh. Kami nagpasa namin dito, di ba? So ilalaban namin basta't kailangan live.
Joining us now is Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science. Doc, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Good morning to all the viewers.
Right, Doc, simulan natin yung yung priority bills ni President Marcos. So, what do you make of this?
Well, it's his initiative is laudable, but of course, we shouldn't get too optimistic about these proposed bills, since we do expect, especially with regard to the proposed anti-dynasty bill, we do expect that there's going to be a lot of excuses on the part of our lawmakers to delay it, or if not to at least kill the bill, and we're also expecting that, given the reduced political capital of the president, I think this is going to face a very tough time in Congress.
But what do you make of the timing of his announcement, Prof?
Well, I think it fits well within the president's anti-corruption initiative. And it also, I suppose, it seeks to sustain the momentum that has been gained by the anti-corruption investigation. So pasok siya dun, no? And kaya nga lang, problema lang dito is, I think within this month, I think on December 15, Congress is going to have a recess. So hindi natin alam, baka mamaya pagbalik ng magre-resume yung trabaho yung Kongreso, if the urgency, if ever there is, will still be there.
But do you think, Doc, this is a move by Malacanang or the President also to temper yung anger ng public? And also, number two, yung looming, yung nakalagay sa taas ng presidente na may issue sa tax, tapos nananawagan siya ng isoli yung pera ng taong bayan. So, a lot of these questions are circulating na kasi.
Ano ito, no? Kumbaga man, this is the president's response to everything that's related to the corruption issue. Tawag dito, yun na nga, I suppose this is his answer to the people's call for transparency and accountability. Kumbaga man, it's an additional ingredient, a component to that initiative of the president.
But do you think it's, dugtong lang na, but do you think it's enough? Kasi nag-usap tayo last time, Doc, parang pinag-uusapan natin, let's see until Feb, no? Pag naubos na yung bonus, wala ng pera ang tao, wala pang resolution ng mga corruption drives, baka ito magiging start ng pagbaba pa ng numero ng presidente.
Ayun na nga ho, ito mga nakaraang, I think yung latest survey by WR Numero, lumabas that the president has, yung numbers niya, have gone down. So it might, these numbers might still go down in the coming months, kasi sa ngayon, medyo masaya pa yung mga tao kasi Christmas season.
Yes.
By the time na nag-set in na naman yung reality, wala na naman tayong pera, ubos na yung ating 30-month pay and bonus, maisip na naman nila yung katiwalian na ginawa ng ating mga public officials. So it's possible that his survey numbers might still go down. Oo. And yung kanyang initiative is not enough. In fact, I do agree with the proposal, with the comment of with Congressman Leila De Lima, na dapat sana, if the president would really like to show his sincerity in pursuing itong or in fulfilling the people's clamor for transparency and accountability, dapat sana ay sinertify niya as urgent itong mga bills na to, particularly the anti-dynasty bill. O kasi mo makikita, mame-measure kung talagang seryoso ang Pangulo. Kasi itong encouragement, lang to meaning to say, walang necessity. So, meaning the lawmakers may still reject or dilly-dally o kaya yun, hindi na nila kumbaga hindi nila ipasa itong kahing anti-dynasty bill.
It's good that you pointed that out, kasi I was gonna ask you that as well, kung pagbabasihan yung mga terminologies, di ba, ng pagpapasa ng batas, itong sinabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, prioritization versus certifying it as urgent, ay madalawa yung magkaiba, no, na terminolohiya. But why do you think yun ang kanyang sinabi kahapon? Why do you think, bakit hindi siya nagsabi na i-certify to as urgent?
Well, maaring marami siyang kinokonsidera, no? Maaring tinitingnan niya yung sinasaalang-alang niya yung dynamics within Congress. Considering na we all know for a fact that majority of the members of both houses belong to political dynasties. So maaring iniisip niya yon na there might be the anti-dynasty bill will encounter strong opposition from the members of both houses. Kaya lang siya, encourage or urge, yun ang kanyang wording, as opposed to hambawa yung certifying the bill as urgent, meaning to say it's necessary, and as a consequence, I think the Constitution provides na diretso na agad sa third reading. Magbobotohan na sa plenaryo. Kung encourage naman kasi magkakaroon pa ng debate yan, gaya nga nung sa interview ni Senate President Tito Soto, sabi niya, i-define pa kung ano meaning ng political dynasty.
Yes.
And remember, if we go back to history, yung mga past proposals, doon rin nag-bog down, doon na stuck. Hindi na nagkasundo ang members ng Congress kung ano ang proper definition of a political dynasty.
Yeah. Well, on the side of President Bongbong Marcos pa rin, why do you think naman din na, of course, a lot of people are saying, kung pagbabasihan talaga by the book yung definition ng dynasty, ay kinabibilangan si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos ng political dynasty. And why do you think all of a sudden meron siyang ngayong ganito na bill na dapat i-prioritize?
Well, I suppose this is his response to the people's clamor for accountability and transparency. Kasi alalahanin natin siya nag-umpisa ng issue na to, siya nag-expose nito na may ganyan nangyayari sa national budget natin nung itong 2025, and that particularly nakulimbat ng ating mga public officials and the PWH executives yung malaking portion ng budget for the flood control projects. Yan ang expose ng ghost project. So, meron siyang ganung klaseng panawagan, anti-corruption drive na nag-umpisa doon sa kanyang panawagan sa SONA niya na mahiya naman kayo. So, all these things, yung kanyang mga itong proposed measures na to, political reforms, they all fit into the president's narrative na mahiya naman kayo.
Pero don't you think, Doc, na siguro, kasi may nagsasabi parang he's not sincere because if he was, he would certify it. So parang he's playing into the hearts of the people by saying, ito ang gusto ko, pero ayaw rin niya banggain yung mga kaalyado niya and mga ibang powerful people in politics by not certifying it because alam niya, we all mentioned also sa Ilocos pa lang, ang dami niyang kamag-anak doon. Tapos yung mga kaalyado niya, ang dami rin kamag-anak. So ayaw niya rin galitin. So parang naglalaro siya.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, yung ganyang observation na baka nilalaro niya lang yung kagustuhan ng mga tao at saka yung kinakailangan niya pa rin yung suporta ng kanyang mga kaalyado sa Kongreso. Kumbaga man binabalanse niya, And this also, I think lends credence to the analysis na baka yung umpisa ang gusto talaga ng Pangulo dito ay hindi talaga magkaroon ng reforma kung hindi ginamit niya yung issue na to upang parusahan yung mga dati niyang kaalyado. Yung midterm election pa lang ay nagpapakita na ng mga senyales na pumapanig na doon sa kalaban.
That's right.
Si former Senate President Jesus Escudero pumapanig na noon kay Vice President Sara Duterte, obvious naman noong impeachment trial. Tapos yung mga kaalyado niya nun sa yung Senate slate niya, yung ilan doon ay bumaligtad na tulad ng mga Villars at nakikitahan rin natin yan noon sa mga Tulfo. So I think it was his way of controlling his allies and former allies. And for his former allies, parang it came as a form of punishment. Ang problema, hindi niya alam na lalala. So hindi niya alam kung paano matatapos. And right now, what he's doing is that, kumbaga man, he's doing damage control or troubleshooting.
Pero tugtog ko lang doon, kasi buti nabanggit mo, Doc, about yung midterm election. We all know, January will mark officially yung lame duck stage ng presidente leading up to 2028. And so all his moves now will be to uplift the stock value in the hopes na yung mga in-endorse niya, na mga, kahit sabihin mo hindi na yung presidente endorse, yung mga senators na i-endorse niya, ay manalo. So he could still enjoy some comfort or control over the houses. So tingin mo, Doc, we'll see more of mga ganitong ginagawa ng presidente next year?
Yes, I think so. I think yung mga gagawin niya in the future, may kinalaman sa yung kanyang pushback doon sa phenomenon na na lame duck president or lame duck presidency. Nagumpisa na nga yun nung bago pa lang ng eleksyon at saka nung matapos ng eleksyon. So he's really trying to regain control of his government, of his political group, vis-a-vis of course the then perceived dominance of the group of Vice President Sara Duterte. So mananatili yung in fact yung even early masasabi na natin na yung kanyang presidency, yung kanyang term is marked by by the struggle for power between the two biggest political groups. Yung grupo ni presidente at saka yung grupo ni Vice President.
Yes.
Mula doon sa magkabati sila hanggang siguro sa pagbaba ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, ganun pa rin ang pinag-uusapan, yung away na nila.
Well, there are a lot of observations naman po talaga, based on how the president is presenting his administration stance on different issues. One of which also, ito pinag-uusapan natin, and of course yung isa pang mainit na usapin yung ICI. Over the couple of days, pinag-uusapan na baka mag-wrap up na ang ICI, talagang ombudsman na lang ang mag-imbestiga tungkol dito sa mga fraud control projects na ito. And you have Congresswoman Leila de Lima pushing for the bill nga na para mabigyan ng more power ng ICI sa Congress. And ang sa Senate naman yung Independent People's Commission. Pero dito sa before that, narinig natin sinasabi ni Yusek Castro na medyo titignan natin, baka medyo redundant na yung ginagawa ng ICI, o kung bibigyan pa sila ng enough power, etc. So parang nagkakaroon kasi ng iba-ibang tono. And right now, by saying na i-prioritize itong 4 na bill na ito, kasama nga yung Independent People's Commission, do you think matitigil na yung usapin na talagang parang yung ginawa mong ICI, parang lip service lang?
Well, actually, isang malaking question mark po yung yung existence ng ICI, even if there's going to be legislation expanding the powers and institutionalizing itong ICI. Kasi maraming katanungan diyan una yung sinabi niyo nga, redundancy. Even if merong batas na ginagawang permanente yan at ini-institutionalize, hindi ba duplication ng function ng ombudsman? So aren't we adding another layer of office that has the same function as the ombudsman? So in the process, hindi ba nade-delay lamang yung dapat sana pagsasampa ng kaso sa mga involved na individuals and public officials? Instead of letting it go through ICI, bakit hindi lang idiretso sa ombudsman para makasave ng time? Di ba? Ngayon, if it's going to be a permanent institution in the government, maganda sana ang hangarin on the other hand. Kasi ang point naman yan is that itong na-discover na corruption with regard to the infrastructure is just a tip of the iceberg. At malamang-lamang sa buong Pilipinas, lahat ng mga infrastructure projects ay may mauungkat na anomalya. So yun ang rationale behind, that's a logic behind the idea of making it a permanent institution. So yun ang dilemma hindi natin masagot until now. Kung relevant ba yan, dapat ba pagpatuloy, o dapat buwagin na.
Well, of course, as a political analyst, we would like to know also your year-end observation, diba? Or analysis dito sa nagiging komunikasyon ng admin pagdating sa mga issues dito sa Pilipinas.
Again, itong going back to my previous point, itong year na to is just like the previous years, marked by the relationship of the president with the vice president at saka yung mga allies nila, yung kanilang mga supporters. This time, siguro if there's a highlight dito sa ano na to, we saw how the vice president has shown her political clout and political influence intact pa rin pala, as shown in the midterm elections. And we have also seen how the president has fought back against the resurgence of the vice president. So I think yung ganung tema ng politika natin mananatili hanggang 2028. There's going to be more of this in the coming years.
Ay nako, humaba ang para naging sarsuela. Pero regards to that, in relation to that, Doc, when President Marcos announced his candidacy for presidency at that time, nakita natin ang platform niya, as supported also by the Dutertes at that time, is to restore yung pangalan ng mga Marcos. In other words, to reclaim or attempt to rewrite history with the narrative that number one, golden era yung panahon ni Ferdinand Marcos Sr. And he had when he won the presidency, he had several failed attempts at reviving the legacy. Yung Maharlika, hindi masyadong nag-take off, yung Nutriban na kinuha ata ni Senator Amy, yung Love Bus kinuha ata ni Senator Amy. So parang sabi nila, ang daming failed attempts to rebuild the legacy. Now, yung tail end ngayon, as predicted by a lot of the pinks, hindi, corrupt yan diba? Corrupt yung history niyan. Ngayon, corruption is at an all-time high. So, do you think there is enough time given na may Duterte ng kaaway to reclaim yung legacy ng mga Marcos? And what does he have to do to get the middle ground, the middle forces on his side?
So, kumbaga man, if we're going to look at the long history of our country, siguro in earliest going back to the time of the president's father. Tama kayo, ang highlight nung sa mga highlights nung presidency ni Marcos Sr. was corruption. Aside from martial law and the human rights abuses, yung corruption. In fact, merong isang scholar na sinabi ito ay kleptocracy, yung kanyang rehimen. Then fast forward to the present time, yung naman anak niya ang presidente, pa rin, the government is still marred with corruption. Ganun pa rin ang issue. Pero this time, although, siguro hindi naman, nag-agree naman tayo na lahat sila ay sangkot dyan, lahat ng mga public officials. But this time, the son has taken a different role. Hindi na siya yung, hindi na siya yung perpetrator ng corruption, kundi siya ay kumagaman hero ng anti-corruption drive. Now, I just don't know if the Filipino people are going to accept this new role of the president. Of course, vis-a-vis dun sa family legacy nila,
Yeah.
Pero this is something that the president can work on and could pursue as a new legacy of the Marcos family. Oo. So, and by doing that, I think magkakaroon naman ng kakampi ang ating Pangulo. Like yung simbahan, sabi nyo nga, kakamping, yung mga dilawan, at saka yung civil society groups. And we have seen that noong nakita natin nung huling rally, noong protest rally, November 30, na kung saan humiwalay na ng rally itong mga civil society at saka itong Catholic Church. Opposed doon naman sa rally na ginanap ng mga pro-Duterte supporters. So magkaiba sila ng goals. Apparently yung goal ng is not to call for the resignation of the president. On the other hand, the goal of the pro-Duterte supporters is to call for the resignation of the president. So makikita yung suporta broader section of the Philippine society.
Dugtungan ko lang yan. So do you see this, Doc, na yung parating going towards the 2028 election? I know it's a few years away, that the Kakampings would rather, kasi let's face it, that's 15 million strong almost. Would they rather have a Marcos ally for a president, or do you see them allying with the Dutertes?
What do you mean po ba? Marcos allying with the Dutertes?
No, the Pinks. The Pinks, sa tingin mo, saan mas papanig ang mga Pink? Sa Marcos o sa mga Duterte?
Well, the Pinks, yung alliance ng the Pinks and the Dutertes are very unlikely.
Okay.
Hindi yung mangyayari yan. Posible pa yung Marcos and the Pinks. At least yung sabihin na natin na yung nasa center ng political spectrum, that is Marcos, pwedeng kumampi sa left of center, moderate left. Pwede natin sabihin na gano'n. That's even more possible compared to the...
Kumbaga, Doc, parang si Lenny at si PBBM magkaroon ng isang chosen one.
Pwede ho yun. I think yun ang trajectory, yun ang inaasahan na trajectory ng leading up to the elections. Pero it's still a long way to go. More than 2 years pa. Hindi natin alam kung may sisipot dyan na dark horse o...
Yun na nga. I was gonna ask you that, Prof, kasi nga, well, since you mentioned VP Sara na rin kanina, dahil nakikita natin kahit ano yung mga allegations that are being thrown against her, she still maintains a strong positivity rate, or trust rate by her supporters. At nakikita natin dito siguro ba, Prof, na dahil walang strong contender from the true opposition, that's why she's still there. Marami pa rin siyang suporta.
That's one of the factors po, kasi ang isa pa sa mga factors is that among the prospective presidential ball, siya pa lang ang nagde-declare early on, aside from Senator Ontiveros. So silang dalawa pa lang. And that partly explains why she leads in the surveys. Pangalawa, solid pa yung political base ng mga Dutertes, intact pa. As shown in the 2025 midterm elections. Solid in the sense na yung Mindanao voting bloc, talagang suportado mga Duterte, solid pa rin sila. Pati yung ethno-linguistic, yung Visayan speaking people, majority are throwing their support to the Dutertes. At saka yung mga classes C and D, I think pro-Duterte rin sila.
Oo nga, Doc. Pero wag natin kalimutan, Doc, meron ba tayong Tulfo brand? Where do they fit in? Kasi they're not the Pink, they're not with the Dutertes, they're not with the Marcoses per se. May sarili silang brand. Paano to kakain sa narrative ng mga political bases?
Well, may sarili yung may sariling political base ang mga Tulfo. I think huge chunk of the supporters of the Tulfos are from the OFWs. Okay. So so far I think nakaalyansa sila sa sa administration, pero of course rin to nagka-calculate din ito ng kanilang nag-iisip ng susunod na galaw. Pero at the moment, mukhang problemado yung Tulfo brand kasi one of them is being accused of womanizing.
Yung issue, yeah.
Tipping, huge amount of money. Well, let's not go there. Pero before we let you go, I wanna ask you po regarding the budget, 2026 budget. Napakalaking usapin po ng ating budget noong 2025 because it was dubbed as the most corrupt budget in our history. Ngayon po, naipasa na sa Kongreso at ngayon po sa Senado itong budget at for the first time daw si Senator Risa Ontiveros voted yes on this. How do you feel about it? Especially magkakaroon po ng open buy camp.
Daw.
Oo, pero kasi sa Congress daw, sabi ni Congresswoman Laila De Lima, medyo yung proposal is left sitting in the committee level.
To stream or not to stream?
Oo. So how do you feel about it?
Well, I think compared to the 2025 budget, the 2026 budget is, sabihin natin, created with some amount of transparency involved. Masaya po ako dito, kasi at least yung mga na-scrutinize because of the vigilance of the people. as well as some of our lawmakers. Talagang hindi natulog, kung man hindi tinulugan yung proposed budget at talagang in-scrutinize ng ating mga mambabatas, lalo na yung mga progressive lawmakers natin. So I think this one is acceptable compared to the previous budget.
You will see dun sa kanila magiging open bycam. Maraming salamat po sa inyo as always sa inyong time and insights. Dr. Dennis Coronacion, Chairman of the UST Department of Political Science.
Pero nakakaano yung word na acceptable, no? Parang gano'n na lang tayo ngayon. Acceptable na yung budget, okay na yan. Pero
natin,
dapat ang word is sana we have the, not perfect, but the proper budget.
Well, tingnan natin kung paano magko-consolidate itong BICAM na to, because in the Congress, nakita natin there are still unprogrammed funds allotted. Pero ang sinasabi naman ng Senate, even in the first few days ng kanilang deliberation, talagang wala daw silang ilalagay na unprogrammed funds. So we'll see. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Sara Diskaya's camp says the embattled government contractor has already surrendered to the National Bureau of Investigation. Here's the report.
After the Philippine National Police ordered the manhunt for Sara Diskaya, she surrendered to the National Bureau of Investigation, even without an arrest warrant yet. Her spokesperson confirmed this in an interview on One News Storycon.
Confirm po, kaninang umaga po, voluntarily surrendered to the FBI.
He clarified that Diskaya was not forced to turn herself in, saying the move shows her willingness to cooperate with authorities. Diskaya is expected to remain under NBI custody until the court issues an arrest warrant.
Pupunta na po siya sa NBI kasi nga po, bilang abogado, baka nga naman maglabas ng warrant of arrest ang korte. So at least nandun na siya.
The NBI has yet to confirm this development. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. meanwhile said the arrest warrant against Diskaya is expected within the week.
At hindi na rin magtatagal ang pag-aresto sa kanya. Magpapatuloy ang investigasyon. Magpapatuloy ang pagpapanagot.
The case stems from graft and the non-bailable charge of malversation filed by the Office of the Ombudsman against Diskaya and several DPWH officials over a 96 million peso ghost flood control project in Davao Occidental. The Ombudsman earlier said the involved DPWH officials are all salary grade 25 and below, meaning the case does not fall under the jurisdiction of the Sandigan Bayan and was instead filed before the Dagu City Regional Trial Court, which is also expected to issue the arrest warrant. The contractors' camp earlier denied that the flood control projects were ghost projects, claiming they were merely damaged by recent typhoons and had to be repaired.
Ay, nako.
Okay. So, kasi this prompted kasi, di ba, the other day, we were talking about na ready na yung mga police, yung tracker teams nila, just in case lumabas na yung arrest warrant for Sara Diskaya, Curly Diskaya, and others who are...
Her Curly is in the Senate, di ba?
The Senate,
okay.
is the Senate. Kasi nga, ano siya, na contempt during the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee at the time. So, he's still there. Kaya nga ito, sabi naman kasi through the spokesperson of Sara Diskaya na hindi naman daw siya nagtatago. This is to prove na handa naman daw sila makikooperate.
Pero natawa lang kasi ako because I also, if yung kay, yung interview nila Bok also yesterday, tsaka yung report natin na above board naman daw ang projects ng mga Diskayas, wala silang ginawang mali. They were forced to do this. Tapos sa report, sinasabi na hindi naman the ghost projects ito, nasira lang ng typhoon. So what do you call that? Substandard? Because in the first place, ang projects na ito, yung flood control project, were made for flood. In other words, were made for scenarios like typhoon na hindi dapat nasisira pag nagbabagyo. The mere fact na nasira to dahil sa isang flood or bagyo, that means substandard, di ba? So, paano naging above board yan? Paano naging yan na wala silang ginawang mali?
Well, you can expect that dun sa kampo nila, di ba? Because sa mga...
hindi kasi narinig ko yung interview nila, Bok, parang, I don't know, hindi, you're supposed to maintain neutrality, but sometimes nakakairita yung parang ang victim, kawawa naman kami.
Because during the interview of dun sa sister show natin sa Storycon, kasi sinasabi through their spokesperson.
Parang kawawa sila.
No, because yung mga contractors, yung mga business dealing sila with the government, ay hindi daw sila kaagad nababayaran. So sila ang gumagastos out of their pocket, out of their savings. So parang in essence, sabi nga nila, oy, kawawa naman. Parang naging naging sarcastic pa.
Hindi lang 'yon. Not only sila na nag-advance, but sinabi rin nila, 'di ba, na napilitan sila magbayad sa politiko. So that in itself is wrong. Kasi kung ikaw...
That's an admission of bribery.
Oh, parang ikaw, may inipit ka para mag-bribe, inipit ka, o bigyan mo ako, kung hindi, walang mangyayari sa'yo. What is the right thing to do? Ay, kawawa naman ako, bumigay ako. Or, you take it to the proper authorities, take it to media right away. Oy, binabribe ako nitong politiko, kung hindi matutuloy yung project. Ano yun? They had all the opportunity to do so, but since 2016, up to now, tuloy-tuloy nilang ginagawa at huwag mo sabihin naghihirap sila dahil doon. Tignan mo yung kotse nila. Eh, yumaman pa sila. Alright, sorry. Winit lang ng ulo eh. So, the PNP has released 10.6 million pesos in cash rewards to 30 informants whose tips led to the arrest of suspects in major criminal cases. The largest reward, 5.3 million pesos, went to an informant who helped authorities locate several Abu Sayyaf members wanted for multiple murder and frustrated murder charges. Now, other recipients provided information that helped solve cases of rape, kidnapping, illegal detention, and other high-profile crimes. Acting PNP Chief Jose Melencio Nartates says the reward system remains a crucial tool in speeding up arrests and encouraging the public to cooperate.
Isa tool, siyempre mapapabilis. Mahihikayat natin ang ating mga kababayan magbigay ng mga information. We will not stop hanggang masatisfy or maaresto natin as ordered by the court.
The Office of the Ombudsman is expected to file several new cases at the Sandigan Bayan this week in connection with the flood control scandal. Here's a report.
Several new cases linked to the flood control scandal may be filed at the Sandigan Bayan this week. Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano said they will ensure that the cases are based on solid evidence.
Kasi hindi naman natin hinahabol ang headline lang. Hindi natin hinahabol ang good news lang bago magpasko. Ang hinahabol ho natin yung totoong accountability, totoong may mananagot sa mga kasalanang ginawa sa taong bayan.
Ombudsman Boying Rimulya previously said that arrest warrants could be issued against the major personalities involved in the scandal, also called the Big Fish. Clavano confirmed this is still possible.
It's possible na merong iba na malalabasan ng warrant of arrest, pero hindi pa muna lahat dahil kailangan po tayo dumaan sa tamang proseso. No? So, we do have to balance itong speed na gusto natin na mangyari lahat before the end of this year. But at the same time, yung quality din ng mga cases ang kailangan din nating tignan. Hindi naman po yan strict deadline. It's a deadline that he imposed on himself so that, we have to balance kasi yung speed, tsaka yung quality, tsaka due diligence. No?
Meanwhile, complaints against former Senator Bong Revilla are in the advanced stage of preliminary investigation at the Department of Justice. Revilla is linked to the scandal after former DPWH District Engineer Henry Alcantara claimed he inserted around 300 million pesos in budget allocations in 2024. Former DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo allegedly delivered kickback money to Revilla's residence in Cavite. Revilla has denied these allegations. In another development, the graft and malversation through falsification case filed against DPWH officials in Davao Occidental and St. Timothy Construction, including Sara Diskaya, will be transferred to the Special Anti-Graft Court as designated by the Supreme Court.
So the procedure was that we would file the case in Digos City, being the place where the public official held office. From there, it would be endorsed to the next judicial region so as not to invite any conflict of interest. And then that designated court will be the one to issue the warrant of arrest.
I mean, agree ako doon na, of course, quality cases ang kailangan natin. In history kasi before na may mga cases tayong nadali for optics lang of the administration noon, pero madaming kaso na di-dismiss due to technicalities, rush, lack of evidence, di ba? Parang minadali lang para hindi magalit ang taong bayan. But this time, I agree naman na we want them to remain in jail.
And you have to remember also na yung mga cases that were filed last few weeks ago ay doon lang dun sa mga flood control projects sa Mindoro, yung
Specific
Occidental,
areas.
specific Oriental Mindoro rather, and Davao, 'di ba? Davao Occidental. Wala pa yung iba pang mga areas na thousands of areas na
Yung sa Bulacan ba?
during the report of President Bongbong Marcos.
Yung sa Bulacan,
Ano?
may na-file na?
Wala pa. That's why, yun nga sinasabi ko, ito yung mga certain areas pa lang. So, expect more cases to be filed. And the same people na dito nga kasabwat allegedly dito sa anomalous flood control projects.
Alright, don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. The Philippine National Police said they currently have no information on the whereabouts of Senator Bato de la Rosa. Acting PNP Chief Lieutenant General Jose Melencio Nartates explained that the police are not pursuing de la Rosa at the moment because he does not have an arrest warrant. He stressed that the PNP will only act once a formal order from the court is issued. Despite this, Nartates assured that once the arrest warrant is released, whether for De La Rosa or anyone else, they are prepared to implement it immediately.
As of now, we don't know about his whereabouts. Wala naman siyang warrant of arrest or basis for the arrest.
Alright. Kasi yan ang pinag-uusapan natin ngayon dahil since I think Monday pa lang pinag-uusapan na natin na through the post of former spokesperson Harry Roque, sinasabi niya na, Senator Bato, wag kang papahuli, lumabas na.
Daw, no?
Sabi niya, lumabas na yung yung ICC warrant. And sabi nga nung abogado niya, si Attorney Torion, parang as of now, parang marites pa rin yung information because they don't know kung talagang... Kasi this information, like for example, itong mga warrant of arrest na to, hindi naman to ilalagay, i-upload din sa website.
Tsaka ang tanong din sinasabi mo, di ba, may arrest warrant ng ICC, pero hindi naman ICC mag-enforce nito. So it's the Interpol. Does the Interpol also have the copy of the arrest warrant and is Senator Bato de la Rosa under the red notice? Blue notice ba to or red?
Pero ang on the side of ombudsman naman kay Boying Remulla, talagang in-reiterate niya sa kanya mga interviews na meron siyang information na talagang meron talagang arrest warrant, ICC arrest warrant.
Correct. It's just that the ICC may bagong ruling kasi na they don't post it anymore.
Well, according to our mobile journalist na si Merrimon Reyes, ang beat niya ay sa Senate, until now, of course, wala pa ring citing kay Senator Bato de la Rosa.
Pampanga daw, diba?
Pero may report sa mga pulis na may last seen siya sa Pampanga. And even his attorney, according sa kanya, ay ayaw na rin daw niya alamin kung nasaan si Senator Bato.
Tsaka 3 weeks na daw hindi nakakausap ng any of the senators si Bato, Senator Bato. And di ba yung sarili niyang committee yung sa budget, yung sa defense, wala siya to defend it.
Yes. And I think meron din information, meron din statement si Senator Robin Hood Padilla saying na hindi na din nga doon niya masyado mini-message si Senator Bato de la Rosa kasi baka daw matrack yung number.
Or malaman niya kung saan. Then of course, si Senator Robin would not like to lie pag tinanong siya. So parang wag ko na lang alamin.
But we'll see what's going to happen dito nga sa usapin ng ICC.
Finding Bato nga ang tawag nila yan Finding Bato.
But in other news, the Department of Justice has indicted businessman Atong Ang and 21 others over the disappearance of several Sabongeros. The DOJ said its panel of prosecutors found prima facie evidence with reasonable certainty of conviction to indict Ang for 10 counts of kidnapping with homicide and 16 counts of kidnapping with serious illegal detention. DOJ spokesman Polo Martinez said the 26 complaints will be filed before the regional trial courts in Lipa City, Santa Cruz, Laguna, and San Pablo, Laguna. Notably, actress Gretchen Barreto, who had been linked to the scandal, was not among those indicted. So whatever happened na doon sa
parang natulog yung kaso.
Whatever happened doon sa search, 'di ba? Yung ginagawa nilang
parang 3 weeks ago we had an update na madami silang dumami ang human remains na nahanap nila. Ang problema dito yung DNA testing natin, yung type of DNA testing that we have, hindi kaya natin malaman because parang dried up na yung bones. So parang papadala pa abroad to find out, diba?
Well,
If it matches any.
Oo. Well, for those who are asking what happened nga dito sa missing Sabongero cases, because years na, no, taon na yung binibilang nung mga kaanak na naghahanap ng hustisya, ito na yung mga kaso, no, na para doon sa allegedly involved dito. Kasi medyo natabunan na itong kwento na to, itong story na to because of the corruption issues.
But prior to that, if our viewers remember, ito ang story of the day. Diba? It's just that nung nagsona yung presidente, yung mahiya naman kayo, yung mga pronouncement, nawala na ito. But tuloy-tuloy naman ang ginagawang investigation kasi ng DOJ and PNP on this. And cases already are prepared. Alright, the 33rd Southeast Asian Games open in Thailand with a vibrant and grand ceremony. Volleyball star Brian Bagunas and tennis sensation Alex Ayala served as the Philippines' flag bearers. The country sent 1,600 athletes and delegates, its largest SEA Games contingent in history. The opening ceremony featured several performances, including Bam Bam of GOT7. Meanwhile, the Philippines cruised to its 4th straight win in SEA Games baseball, routing Vietnam 21-1 under the Mercy Rule. Paulo Makasait and Razli Santos powered the early scoring as Filipinos exploded for 7 runs in 2 innings and never looked back.
The local government of Binangonan, Rizal unveils a new pasyalan, drawing crowds for its giant eco-friendly Christmas tree and its first ever night market. The details in this report by Mobile Journal, Jazz Paredes.
As the Christmas season draws near, a new Christmas pasyalan becomes a hit in Binangonan, Rizal. With its theme Paskuhan sa Binangonan, the municipality aims to make the Christmas season more vibrant and festive for everyone. The center of attraction at the Paskuhan is their giant Christmas tree, placed in front of the Binangonan Municipal Hall. It is made entirely out of recycled materials and embodies the spirit of Binalayan.
Binalayan stands for Binangonan, Salawat, Kawayan. Ito po talaga yung pinaka-source po ng aming pong inspiration po. So, embrace po ang ating bayan sa kanilang culture and tradition po. Ito po ay made from recycled materials, plastics, kawayan po. Siyempre po, ang aming pong pinagmula na bayan, produkto, and sa mga fisher folks po natin kung saan po ito po yung talagang main source po ng kabuhayan at dito po talaga yung pong nakikilala pong bayan ng Binangonan.
The Christmas tree is made of water containers, plastic cups, used lambat, CDs, used spoon and fork, drinking straws, used computer parts, and petroglyphs. It honors the town's main livelihood, the lake and its fishermen. Meanwhile, the highlight of the Paskuhan is its night market, held for the first time in the town.
First time po itong nangyayari sa Binangonan, ito pong Binangonan Night Market. And this is to support our local micro, small, and medium enterprise po sa ating pong bayan ng Binangonan. And yun nga po sa team po ng ating bayan, which is yung Malcolm Binangonan, we have to love our own. So support our own products and local businesses.
Mabuhay! Welcome to Binangonan!
The night market features 35 stalls, each offering a unique selection of food, Binangonan-made products, and other non-food items. The uniqueness of each stall helps lessen competition, ensuring that all vendors can generate profit. This aligns with the goal to help local MSMEs through the event.
Kahit na po lahat ng Binangonan yung lahat po ng product na lang po talaga yung gagawin namin, ay dadalhin namin, kaya napakalaking opportunity po nito sa amin. Tsaka napakalaking tulong din po sa business. May mga pangangailangan din po sa family na pro-provide na po dahil po dito sa night market. Yes po.
Yes po, super po, nakatulong. Then, nakakapagbigay din po kami ng saya sa tao, lalo na po ako kasi kapag may lumalapit pong taon, ini-entertain ko po talaga ng very well. Siyempre, para po maging mahasaya po ang ating bazaar sa Binangonan Municipality.
From snacks to rice meals and a variety of desserts, the night market offers different cuisines to suit every taste bud. While dining, visitors are also kept entertained through open mic performances. Anyone can sing or perform with no age restrictions. Perfect for a group of friends and families to sit, enjoy their food, and listen to good music.
Maayos naman, maganda kasi bihira kami lumabas. Hindi kagaya ng nandito kami ngayon sa lugar namin, may malapit. Madali kami makapag-banding ng family.
Para mapil naman na kami
mga taga-bilang at still young. Kumbaga yung moment nung kabataan namin nung high school, mapil pa namin. Mura lang po, masarap pa.
The night market is open every day from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. until January 23. Live dance and song performances are also expected every Friday starting 7 p.m. onwards. Anyone can visit and admission is free. Kapatid Chas Paredes, we are One News.
Alright, that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.